when we get to Lamar Jackson, the question I have for you is how do you think he gets over the hump? Because now, with the way that his playoff record is, I believe he's 2-4, and the pressure that's on him with the contract and what Patrick Mahomes is doing, how do you think he doesn't allow the narrative to become his
Yeah.
reality?
I think back to when I played high school for baseball. And my junior year, man, I could not hit the curveball. So you know what they did? My senior year, they came in doing that curveball. I messed
Right.
around and had like, 12 or 15 home runs that year, half of them on that curveball. And I just think about Lamar in that same light to the fact, like, man, they were lighting him up. They're hitting him with the blitz, and it was kind of being effective.
Yep.
So you just know everybody saw that, the whole world saw that. So you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna copy that. They're gonna hit you with some pressure.
Yeah.
And the best way to beat pressure is to prepare for it.
Right.
So this all season, I expect him just to be in just. I'm not a quarterback, but I just expect him to try to, put himself in a situation where he can see all these different looks,
Right.
and try to, visualize that, game, in real time in game mode, and just try to put all that experience in you because it's gonna come. And then your biggest thing, I think the biggest thing for him is just being able to overcome that. So when they bring that pressure, you hit them with a dagger, and we got a whole different outcome. We got a whole different narrative. So, I know that they're gonna try to heat him up. I feel like that they got to him a little bit, and just be ready for that. Just be ready for that next year. I mean, what is he going in his 8th year or something like that?
He'll be going into
I
his
don't
into his 7th year. Yep.
7 year. Oh shoot, so he's younger than I thought. Good.
Yeah.
So he got plenty of time. But like I say, these years when you got these squads, like, man, you can't take that for granted because
No.
you don't know how it's gonna look in another 2 years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I actually tweeted out something after the game talking about Greg Roman, their former offensive coordinator, who I had the honor to work with in Baltimore. And a big gripe about him was he ran the ball too much, right? Well, in this playoff game, they didn't run the ball enough. I don't think that it's not to say, hey, the grass isn't always greener, because I am a believer in Todd Monken and what he was able to accomplish. And listen, they made it to the AFC Championship game. Like, they got farther than they were before, but the Ravens can't forget who they are and who Lamar Jackson is, especially in those big time games.
I feel like what we used to seeing, like what we're talking about, we throwing the ball all game. What we're used to seeing from the Ravens, we just weren't seeing, that second half of that game. Like you said, we're used to from like back in the days, Jamal Lewis, seeing them boys pound the rock. They was running the rock successfully this whole season, I feel like. So just that was just, it just seemed uncharacteristic, just the ball they were playing there.
Yeah, and I hate to say I told you so when it comes to a team like the Ravens that obviously I've got a affinity for and a massive respect. But those two games against the Niners and the Dolphins near the end of the year were phenomenal. They were clicking on all cylinders. And I sat here and I said they should not sit the starters in the last week of the season. And the reason was you want to keep them in rhythm. Play them for a half, a quarter, I don't know. But then they sit down for 20 days, Calvin, and they go out against the Texans and they win the game, but they were flat in that first half.
Flat.
And they weren't on. And then they go to the AFC Championship game against the vaunted Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They were off. Right? Like, Lamar makes that spectacular play, but that's the only touchdown that they score. I'm still a believer that the guys should play. I know you don't want to risk injury, but I've been around Lamar Jackson and this team. They're all vibes. It's all about, he's got a beautiful mind, man. I'm telling you, Calvin, in practice, you'd be like, I don't know. But in the game, that brother is something special now. So do you think that might have had anything to do with them being a little off? Was that break there at the end of the year?
To your point, man, I love momentum and the momentum built. Like, I know for me as a professional, I would not want to play. For fear of losing any kind of momentum that I got going.
Right.
Coach might be like, okay, well, you're just going to put in a little bit of time this half, and I was like, okay, I can deal with that, but I got it. For me, I got to get out there. I got to run. I got to feel it. I got to feel the game. I don't want to go a whole week without playing.
Right.
It's great you put yourself in that situation where you when you're the leader of your division, where you can miss that game.
Yep.
But man, I mean, like just taking like a whole game off. I remember seeing that now that we're talking about it, and that's my thing. Like, man, I hate getting out of sync. I hate getting out of losing momentum. Like, and then say you don't have a great game. Just that's the last thing on your mind. That's the last thing you're seeing.
Right.
Constantly. So I mean, not that you didn't have a good game, but the time before that, maybe you didn't have a great game. So you got that's your last thing on film. So it's just I want to play. While we're in the
No, I'm with you. I thought they should have played, and I think it did play a factor. I don't think they'll ever admit that, and I don't think it matters at this point. The Ravens this year had one of the best teams they've ever had, and it's not just on paper. Like in reality, they hadn't been to a AFC Championship game in 11 years. Like this Ravens team was phenomenal. They just didn't get it done when they needed to the most against this defending champs, and that sucks. But they've got a young core, and they're building towards the future. RG3 and the Ones is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. We making bank, people. It's as simple as this. You need to select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Boom. Daily fantasy sports is made easy with Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/RG3 and use code RG3 for a first deposit match of up to $100. It's a lot of money, y'all.